podcast. My name is Samantha Farrow, and I'm here with Isaiah Colton with Real Estate Nexus. And today is a very special podcast because, as a lot of you know, March is Women History Month. And we have some very special top producing women real estate agents on with us today. And with us, we have Michelle. She is from Honolulu, Hawaii. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Aloha.
We also have Angela Miller from Summerville, South Carolina. Hello, Angela.
Hello.
We have Chrissy Young. She is from Kaysville, Utah. Am I saying that correct? Kaysville?
Yep.
Hi. And Vita Wood. She's from my hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, which I miss it terribly. Welcome, Vita.
Hey, good.
We love having you ladies on today. Well, for our first topic that we have going on, it is on women in real estate and how women are top performing in the real estate industry and having the most success in today's market. So ladies, if I can get started with today, what would be one thing that comes to mind when you hear this statement?
I think of powerful. I think the feminine women are powerful, and that has always been underplayed in history. But when I think of women in real estate and some of the people I've worked with, they're some of the most beautiful, powerful women I know.
I would say tenacity.
Yeah.
Because thinking about how it started, it really, for women, I would say, it really was like the guys or the men, the husbands would send the women out there. Oh yeah, you go look at the little doilies and the little decor things for the home. That's really what it started out. And then the checks started coming home. They were like, wait a minute, this might be serious. This is something real. And then, it turned
was almost like a hobby, right? Like almost like,
exactly.
Oh yeah, go do the hobby thing, right? Yeah.
Let the ladies go play around with the houses. And then they saw it was real. So yeah, I love that we had tenacity to stick to itiveness to let people know that it's not a hobby. It is a real profession. So yeah.
It's a lot of work.
When I think of women in real estate, I think of passion. I think a lot of us are very passionate about what we do because we like to help other people. We like to help others.
Absolutely. Yeah. And two words come to mind: killing it.
Yes. Rock star.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. For me, there's a term that I think a lot of people, when they hear this term, they take it for granted, or they misinterpret the meaning of it. But there's a term that it's called meekness, and if you look up the term meekness, it actually means power under control.
Ooh, I like that.
And I think that one of the things I found with women in real estate is they have this incredible power, but as a man, I think women do a better job of channeling that, and the ability to be able to show empathy when needed, and to be able to walk people through one of the most most difficult decisions in their life a lot of times, especially when they're selling their house and all the things that go into that. I really think it takes that, the ability to be able to channel that power and be able to walk them through a journey and to be able to empathize with them. And, there's definitely a process to that. And I think, I think a lot of men can really take a lesson, out of that playbook. So
I have to agree with you.
I think the nurturing comes out of us too. Some of the nurturing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the problem is that, and I think our society, I'm hoping we move towards this trend, but as a man, as a what I would say, I'm a high D personality. I'm like your classic alpha, like, right? Yeah. Like, and how I grew up, I grew up in a conservative environment. And what I've had to learn is that by showing empathy and caring and actually, and actually taking a step back and learning how to control your power, actually is more valuable and more powerful than just being some alpha male. You're not any less weak because because you're showing empathy and because you're caring, which I think is a misconception for a lot of men in our society that we could learn from women. So that's kind of my perception of it.
I want to add to that. I think we can mirror the client a little better. We're not. I don't feel like the women are as high pressured on them as we are, like you said, compassionate, that we can mirror the client and, not be so domineering. Yes, we're driven to get to the finish line, but if if I'm talking to somebody with a lot of energy, I'm going to get revved up. If I'm talking to someone that is, a little bit laid back, then I can mirror that image as well. So
I think
that's a really good point.
I think too, like, I come from a world of sales my whole life. Like, I was in marketing and sales, and I've been in corporate USA, and then I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years too. And like, I think about my pre-sales career when I was with an all-men. I worked for Franklin Covey, and I was like one of their top salespeople, and I made Presidency Club every year. And I was in a room full of men. I was the only woman. And I found it interesting time and time again how I would be quietly just doing my job, and I was killing it. And all those men were high-fiving and pumping and that was great. It brought a fun energy, and I loved watching that. But I also you guys, if you spent more time working and less time high-fiving and talking about how awesome you were, you'd be killing it like I am, and so I think that comes a lot to do with it is the ego, you know what I mean? And I think it's good to have a healthy ego. I'm confident on what I do. I feel strong and powerful about it, but I don't need to go prove it to everybody around me. That's my thought.
There's a lot to be said about that.
And we have patience.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's move on to the next question. No.
No, there's definitely a fine balance between being confident and just being a prick because you're so cocky. So for sure.
I was actually having a conversation with a partner today about one of the new agents who happens to be my brother-in-law, who came out of the general manager position as a car salesman. And yes, and so he is very driven. He's very driven. He's not slowing down because he's so used to just slamming the deal done.
Yeah.
So he's had several canceled contracts because he's not doing the due diligence that he needs to do prior to writing the contract. So, I'm like, okay, well, he's learning, he's a brand new agent. He is, but it's going to take some of those canceled deals for him to understand, okay, this is not car sales. So I've explained it to him. This is not car sales. You got to slow down. Not one and done. It's forever, So anyway, fun stuff.
Very, very powerful. I like that. It's not one and done. It's forever.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose that relationship.
No.
Very nice. Well, ladies, I know we're on to the next question. What would be some common mistakes that you've seen women agents make in today's real estate market?
I would say the assertiveness. You have to be assertive. I think sometimes we play a fine line because we want to be, I don't know if the word is passive because I'm a high D as well, but you want to be less assertive at home, but you need to be a little bit more aggressive in the business world. And sometimes I think some women haven't found the balance or when to do that. And unfortunately, they will get walked all over or run over or not aggressive enough for their clients in negotiating a deal. So I would say, assertiveness.
I'm going to go the opposite end of that. I'm going to say we internalize so much because we're impotent. You know what I mean? That we have to learn to not. It is a transaction that has a lot of feelings in it, but we can't be emotional about every deal. We have to learn to put on the brakes, don't respond, help them understand the transaction and their choices instead of being so emotionally involved. I think that's some of what I've seen. And then I would say the other thing that I said was balancing life. Sorry.
Speaking of balancing life, right?
Yes, balancing life. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but-
Angela, before you move on to that balancing life point, I do want to hear that, but I think what Veda said and you're saying are actually very similar, because I think a lot of people,
Yeah.
I agree.
I think a lot of, people in general, but I think what you're saying, Veda, women might not be assertive because of the emotional part of of the concerns of internalizing that. They might not be
Right,
assertive enough
right.
in business. Would you agree with that?
Right,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, I don't think they were opposites. I think they were kind of together.
yeah, I think they're together. So Angela, I'd love to hear your point about balance too. So if you want to pick up on that point again.
Yeah, it's about managing life and understanding that we do have, I think a lot of times because of the fact that we internalize so much, we feel like we have to be there for everybody. And we're not. My mistakes, I know as an individual, is I'm a workaholic because I love what I do. And I'm so passionate about what I do that I get up in the morning, and start my day. And I have to set boundaries and be more concerned about time management, and if I have an appointment with my family, then that's on the calendar, but the clients don't have to know what that is,
Let's
and
talk
learning
about
that.
for a second. How the heck do you ladies balance all this out? Like, let's talk about that, because I don't care what anybody says. Like, like a working woman, and then in most scenarios, there's a lot of nurturing that goes on with the kids outside of that. I know every household's different, right? But I think we need to talk about that, if that's cool with you guys, just for a second. So
I had a whole download on that this morning when I was having like my mindfulness and spiritual time.
Yeah.
That I was, and I had, there was like a little podcast that went around like in my community, and it was a person who was speaking about how, like, they said, how do you balance everything? Because he was big in our church, he's big in the community, he's big in a lot of things, and they said, how do you, like, that was the question they asked him, and he said, I think back to when there was when I went to like a Circus Soleil, and that person comes out and they start spinning the plates on sticks, right? And they spin a bunch of plates, and they're holding like 10, 15 plates spinning. And he said that gave him such a good analogy about like balance. He said, we don't really balance. What it is being present and focusing on one thing at a time, like that plate, and getting it going. And if you love, nurture, take care of that plate and get it spinning correctly, and then you can put that aside and hold it aside for a while, and then you go over here and you do that. And I watched that, and I was like this big aha moment, because I'm telling you, work-life balance is a hard thing for me. And I think I agree with Angela that that's probably one of the hardest mistakes I see women make in this is that we want to be the nurturing mother. We want to be, in our community, and we want to be doing the work. And so I just thought a lot about that. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's what it is. It's being present-minded. Be where you're at. Right now, I'm at this podcast. That's what I'm focusing on. I'm going to have trust that all my other plates are spinning because I took the time to get them going and spinning correctly. I can just walk away and be at this podcast, and then I can reassert myself. So I just thought that was a really cool analogy, because I think if we think we have to balance everything and there's a perfect perspective to that, it's not. It's just being present where you're at and doing your very best at that place, and then trusting if you put in the time that it's going to keep going.
Yeah, that's good. Does anyone else want to comment on that?
I'm going to say for me, it deals with priority. So when I started real estate way back in my itty bitty young days, without any children, I thought that this would be a great career, that I could, raise a family and do those things. So young married couple, no children. And I said, okay, let me ask some people that have been in real estate for years, like, what are some mistakes? What are some life lessons? So those sort of things. And then as I started having children, I have 3 children that I've had, 3 sons, 3 boys that are in every single sport. And I think they've made up a couple extra sports. Like, I take them to all these things. So it's like really, really hectic and busy. But what one of the people told me was, remember your children are only that age once. They grow
Mhm.
very fast. Don't lose that time with them. So as I started having children, you know, I was like, okay, I made them a part of real estate when they were babies. Like the oldest one, when he was a baby, I made this whole thing about being pregnant and having my clients try to guess when he was going to be born, so they knew it would be a part of it. And then when he was a newborn, I'm taking him on listing appointments with me in the little carrier thing and doing all that. And then it had gotten to the point when I would go without him. They were like, "Well, where's your baby?" And I'm like, "Really? I'm not bringing him all the time." Like, "Are you?" So, but the
The
point
break.
is priority, right? When they
Vader's
got
like, how come I'm
older,
not closing as many transactions? Like, how come I'm not getting as many listings now?
it's like I gotta leave that kid, you know. Oh, did I leave him? Sorry, no. But you know, I put everything on my calendar. It's like I believe Angela said, when she has a schedule with her family, it's an appointment. So I am not worried. I don't have the fear of loss. Like, am I going to lose something because I'm not dealing with this client, or I'm not answering the phone at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock? No, I don't even think my children knew I actually had a job when they were younger, because when I had banking hours. When they were in school, I work. When I picked them up, it's their time. Taking them to this game. I was at every practice, every basketball game, every football game, every this, every that. So it just was, I think, priorities and setting that calendar together, making sure, you know, it's a lot, but it can be done. Just don't let it overwhelm you. Just know that if somebody is going to walk, or they don't understand it, they don't want you as their realtor because they feel like you're not at their beck and call 24 hours a day, then that's not the client for me. And I'm fine with that. So
That's powerful. Yeah.
I think when I
live
changed,
by that. Go ahead.
yeah, I think when I changed my mind to abundance, you know, there's enough. There's enough. Then it changed my mentality of going, it's okay that I'm home, you know.
Yeah.
But I had to mentally accept that abundance mentality.
That's strong. Michelle, were you going to say something?
No, I was just gonna add to Vita is that I live by time blocking. I mean, absolutely have to, and reevaluating it weekly, just to make sure that I'm doing the things I need to be doing. And so in my career prior to real estate, I was a single mom in sales in a male dominated industry. And so I did that. But when I got remarried and I had that other half in my life again, that was a struggle to have to adjust and fit that person into my schedule. So it's been quite a challenge, but you know, been able to work all of that out. And so now he lets me go do what I need to do because he knows that, you know, there's rewards at the end. So it's balance, definitely balance. And then
Michelle, what rewards are you talking about again?
Travel, right?
So because he sacrifices a lot of his, you know, knowing that I have to sacrifice a lot of our time together and things like that. So every single closing, I always treat ourselves out to a seafood dinner because he loves seafood.
That's awesome.
I love that.
I like that.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah, I think it's important to celebrate the small wins. It's one of the biggest mistakes that I made early on in my career as an entrepreneur. Is we were having success, but it was like never, like I always wanted to go to the next level, and I didn't take the time to celebrate those small, you know, those wins with the family. And I think over the past 3 years, I've done a better job of that. And I just encourage anybody watching this that you take that and run with it, because the journey up, it flies so fast, and if we don't enjoy the process along the way, like the fulfilled part is not actually reaching the goal. It's what you become in the process and the experiences along the way. And if you want your family to support you, like I just had a conversation with somebody and they're like, yeah, they don't support me. And then you look down, though, is they're not even involving them in the process. So how could they support if they feel like these are just two totally different worlds? And that's something that I'm glad you brought up, Michelle, because I personally try to work on that is truly, if my wife is my life partner, she also needs to understand what's happening in my whole life and celebrating along the way, you know? So I'm glad you
He's
said
gonna go
that.
home and be like, what's my reward this week?
Yeah.
I talked to the ladies, they're giving their husbands rewards. What do I get?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
You also
That's
have
right.
to reward yourself for all the hard work.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I reward myself with a massage. So that
I love
motivates me to go and get more
Thank you.
cozies because I love massages.
That's great.
Start doing that. That's nice.
I love that, Michelle. And I think that like plays true to like when we're saying what are some of the mistakes we make. I think that's a big part is self-care, like like taking care of ourselves. But sometimes we like sit there and do the grind and do the grind and do the grind. And we have to be for our kids and we have to be for this because we feel so committed to that. And we're the mothers and we feel like we're the glue and we don't do the self-care. So I love that you talked about that because I think that is so powerful to a success track is having that reward and self-care.
I agree.
Second that. That's
Everybody
huge.
watching, take notes on that.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
Hire the housekeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's talk about that because some women feel weird or feel different about delegating certain things in the household, or maybe having somebody watch their kids once in a while, or whatever it may be. And I, I want to let's just talk about that in general as a potential mistake out there. Is how should women, delegate if they're
Let
going to be
go of
successful?
control.
I'm waiting to hear all you women tell me this because this is my weakest link. And I don't delegate like I should. And I have a lot of people who will say, hey, why didn't you tell me you needed help? And I'm like, my best analogy is like I feel like I'm drowning and I'm just doing everything I can to keep my head above the water. And I don't have time to tell you to throw me something to rescue me, but that's my fault actually, that I've allowed myself to get to that point that I'm drowning in my business, drowning in my life and not asking to delegate. And so I would love to hear how you guys have delegated over the years. I'm learning. I heard a really great thing on our last week in the class on Friday that we do with you guys. And they, is it Brian that said?
Brian Curtis, yep.
Yeah, he said, draw a line, Chrissy, he said this to everybody. I just took it very offensively. And he says, look at everything you do in the day. What could you pay somebody $20 an hour to do? Like all that you do. And what can you make for $200 or more an hour? And then focus on you doing the $200 an hour job and then delegate the rest. And I was like, oh, never even thought about that. So
yeah, big deal.
That's what that's what I was going to say. I was going to say delegate any and everything and think about the dollar it will cost you or that it's costing you to do the I don't want to call them menial, but the lower dollar productive items. But it sounds like you just said what it takes to do. Draw it out, write it out. What are the things? I delegate every single thing. So I don't know if you all remember. I'm looking. Maybe Samantha doesn't, but the rest of us probably do. About 18 years ago, there was this like brown truck. I don't even remember the name of the company, but they used to deliver groceries and then they went out of business. There was like this grocery delivery thing. Now it's popular again. I was like mortified when they canceled the service. And it may have been in certain geographic areas in the country, but anything that I could pay somebody else to do for me that makes sense, I am going to have them do it because that allows me more time to do what I need to do, which is prospecting, lead conversion, and getting to the closing table. So if it's not any of those things, and those are the most important and the most dollar productive things that I could be doing. So all the rest of that, find somebody else to do it. I mean, it's sad and
that's powerful.
Oh, I Instacart every week. I don't have time to go to the grocery store.
That's it. I mean,
do my grocery shopping, deliver it to me. Thank you.
I think that was powerful. Say it again. What are the things that make the money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that's what you want to focus on. The lead generation, the conversion, and getting to closing. Those are the things you want to focus on.
right.
All the rest of that somebody else can do, especially the things that are not your strength. You want to delegate out your weaknesses first. So
Mhm.
if social media isn't your thing, hire somebody to do that. Get that off your plate. If organization is not your thing, hire somebody to do that. I mean, whatever it is, as my assistant's holding up stamps and stuff. If mailing's not your thing, hire somebody to do it. Like I literally, it's so sad. Don't judge me. But I have a high schooler. He's in the 11th grade. He's 17. That's my middle son. So I think it's safe. But he wanted to, they have this thing at his school where you can go in late, an hour late, if you don't need help with your work. So anybody that's an A or B student, they don't necessarily have to go in early. So he's in all honors classes. He's a basketball player, all that. Great. And I'm proud. And he said, "Mom, can you take me to school tomorrow?" Which is today. And I was like, I knew I had some stuff that I needed to do. I Ubered him, a Delegate.
Love it.
I'll get you a car.
Yes, ma'am.
$13.
Yeah.
That saved me time. Like that 20 minutes that would taken me to do it, let Uber do it.
And it's cheaper than gas these days too. So
true.
Right. Yeah, and it's not just the 20 minutes, it's the distraction of the workflow, right? It's the loss of momentum.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's right. Because it would have been in the middle of my day, on my morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's powerful advice.
I'll roll right into the next question. Oh, go ahead, Ms.
Michelle, you're going to say something before you move on?
I was just going to say, like, in the beginning, like with real estate, it's like, it's scary, right? Because it's all commission based. And so you're like, well, how do I pay for these things? I need to make money before I pay for these things. But little plug for REN. Thank goodness I found REN, and I just surrendered and gave up some stuff that was not my strength. And I've been able to focus on other things, which has excelled my business as far as, getting more transactions and things like that. So, oh my gosh, I mean, it's life-changing when you can let go and change your mindset and not think that way where, I don't know.
It's huge. It's that first step of letting go. And then once you see the results on it, you're like, wait a second, why wasn't I doing this sooner, right? And you have that breakthrough, and then it's like, okay, well, how many things can I do this? How quick can I do it, right? And then it's finding the balance between doing it too quick and not fast enough, right? It becomes like the next challenge that people run into. But Michelle, that's awesome that you had that breakthrough. That's really great. Yeah.
I'm so excited for 2022.
Yeah,
me too.
I'm so glad to be with REN. I mean, it is so nice to be working on something else and those leads are coming in, they're talking to you and you see them. And it's like, yes. I love it.
Leverage, right? And actually it's kind of, that's kind of what we're talking about. And if you look at anybody, you look at people that are, that are very successful. If you look at the, underneath what's happening is they found ways to get leverage in every area of their life. And I think this is really important for women up and coming in real estate because, the dynamics of it all is, if I'm hearing everybody, that's really what it comes down to, is find ways to get leverage as fast as possible so you can focus on your real estate business and focus on the things that matter the most.
Money makers.
Would it be safe to say is when you've gained leverage too, that you're a little bit less burnt out for your family and your kids? Is that, so I think that's another thing to think about too, is sometimes we're like, about production and finance, but going back to the well-being and going back to the, I work with a lot of people that come to me and they're burnt out and they're ready to quit. And I'm trying to talk them off the ledge. And a lot of it, if I look at it, it's because of how they were running the race. Right. Like, and I think part of it is like, you can be super productive and you can try to do things like all yourself and you can have success, but like, how sustainable is that over the course of 10 years? Right. Or whatever the time frame is. And so I think that's the other part too, is, being present, having energy for other things, for your health, for your family, for your community. I think that's why leverage is important too. Yeah. For yourself. Yep.
Yeah.
I like that part you said about running the race. And of course, I'm in the South, so I'm going to talk about NASCAR. But you think about them going in the race and going around and around. When they have to change a tire, they don't get out and change the tire. They have that pit crew. They get it in, get it out, so that they can focus on what they have to focus on, and that's getting around those laps. So you could do it yourself, but it doesn't make sense to do it because that's not the best use of their time or their skill set.
Wow, I love
great
that.
analogy.
Mhm.
I love that.
I
That's
like that
really
a lot.
nice.
Beta, I'm gonna, if you hear me training on that, my next training, then
It's yours.
I'll make
You
sure I
can
try to
take it.
remember to give you credit. Okay.
Tomorrow on
fine, that's
our
fine.
lead challenge, he's gonna be like, guess what? I
Yeah.
heard yesterday.
Mhm.
We'll give you a little
For
shout out.
NASCAR, right? You don't get out of the car.
That is your
Great, though. It's true.
Yeah. There you go.
Very true.
Cool.
Well, with that
What do you
being
got?
said, what advantages and disadvantages have you seen over the years as women are in the real estate industry that have changed that come to mind?
Well, I will say that I've been doing this going on 28 years. And so before I got into real estate, my education was put on hold because I was a stay-at-home mom with my kids. And so then we had created a business. And so then I started going out and selling for the company that we created. And that's how I got into real estate, because I met a builder developer. But before, we were just stay-at-home moms. We were, that's what we did. And we were just, hobby. It was a hobby. It wasn't, it was not a true job. Real estate's nothing. It's, and then because of the fact that we do have powerful women in this industry, we are looked at and viewed a whole lot differently. And we're outpacing the guys. Sorry, Isaiah.
I don't even, hey, there's some things I'm very competitive, and you know what I do when I can't compete? I just don't compete. Why do you think I have awesome women around me everywhere?
Smart man.
Smart man, yeah.
Well, statistically, more people trust and want to buy from a woman. That is that is straight statistics across the board. They've done study after study. Not everybody. I definitely have had men who are only want to work with men, but statistically that there's far more in women's. So this is a field where we have an advantage is in sales, whether women realize it or not. And I realized this at a young age is people feel more comfortable with the women in sales. And I don't know why that is, but it's
I'd like to talk a little bit about that because I've studied this quite a bit.
Yeah.
Is part of the reason is because you're able to show that you care, but when you learn to be assertive and show that you care in the process, there's a level of there's certain psychology to get people to like you and trust you. Women are just better at it. So when you can have, because they're usually better at showing empathy, they're usually better at building rapport. Which, by the way, if you survey, because I did an interview of the top 100 listing agents that we had in my network that I've ever worked with a long time ago, and the two qualities of a top listing agent were their ability to show empathy and build rapport. Was the number one reason why they were successful. And women naturally, a lot of women naturally are better at that. And so, and I'm not, and again, these are very general statements. So for anyone listening to this, we're just we're making general statements. We're not saying it's like this with everybody, right? But I think that's one thing. And so, and we all have things we got to work on. But for me, when I first got involved in sales in general, one of the things that I worked on, I noticed that I actually was fortunate to work with a woman who was extremely powerful. She was so aggressive, but she had this ability to push and pull with the people that she was working with to show empathy, but then drive it forward when she needed to. It was freaking unbelievable. And we always joked around, oh yeah, it's because you're a woman. But it wasn't just that. It was because she found that balance of showing empathy And what you were saying, Veda, of being training ourselves to be assertive when we need to give direction when we need to negotiate when we need to. And I learned a lot from that. So that's why I think, I'm not saying it's some formal research, but that's why I think women have an advantage, because their ability to they gain trust so much quicker. So, so that's my 2 cents on that. So what do you guys think? Why do you guys think that is?
That's exactly my thoughts. Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think everybody can learn from that, and I think that's something that's really powerful. And if you're watching this and I think, especially if you're new to real estate or you're new to sales and you didn't come from a sales background, I think instead of if you're sitting there, you're saying, well, yeah, I'm a woman, but I don't know, I feel uncomfortable, I'm nervous, or you have all these emotions. Yes, that's your advantage, because you actually give a crap, right? No, not, oh my gosh, can I do this? No, yes, that's your freaking advantage. And
Right.
now if you just learn and you get around powerful women that have found a way to balance that out, you can crush it. And that's why women crush it in real estate. They just do. So
I feel like I have to say this. I wasn't going to mention it because I come from a place of abundance as well, as opposed to lack. But I think I need to say it, especially when you just said for those listening, because we have all types of agents, women on this call, all types of agents. So for a lot of the newer ones that may not know, you want to definitely, we have women's intuition. You definitely want to stick to your gut. If something doesn't feel right, go with that. And I'm saying that because one of the disadvantages could be safety. So definitely listen to your listen to your gut, because your gut will not steer you wrong. I don't know if men have it, but it certainly wouldn't be called women's intuition. But definitely you want to listen to that.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Every business mistake that I've ever made, my wife disagreed with when I made it.
Wow.
There you go.
Every
smart
one.
lady.
Everyone. Yep.
Yeah. So listen to your gut.
I love that on safety. I had put that on my list as well. I love that you said that. I was in real estate for only a year and a half, and I got a stalker that found me on the MLS and started sending me creepy letters and all kinds of things. And it didn't even occur to me that that was a thing, because I am so outgoing and I love people and I just, everybody's my best friend and all of this stuff. And it just, and I'm a little bit naive and innocent, because I come from a world of stay-at-home moms and everything's safe in that world. Like, we protect our babies and we all hold together, right? And then you went into real estate and that happened, and it scared me. And so I have a business partner. He's 6'2", a bodybuilder. Like, you are scared to look at him. That is my business partner. I never go to a first time appointment alone. Never. I never go to a first time appointment alone. I always, either my husband attends with me or my business partner goes with me. Safety is so important. And I'm grateful that I had that experience at the beginning of my career. And I'm not scared, you guys. Like, we talked about, we adapt, we move around, we find solutions, but we also have to be real. I love what you said about listening to your gut. There's times when something just didn't feel right, and I'm like, sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. So good.
Well, I got the CWP, concealed weapons permit, when I walked into a house and there was a squatter.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was upstairs down a catwalk behind the bathroom door, and I was basically cornered. And luckily I did not panic and I didn't scream. I just very patiently and quietly walked out the door and got in my truck at the time and put my gun on the console and called the cops. And I had an incident last week that I just didn't feel comfortable, and asked my husband if he could go, and he couldn't. So, hey, the gun came with me. You know, it's important. If you don't feel comfortable with the gun, take a safety class. You've got to be able to do self-defense in this industry, because there are a lot of crazy people out there, but your gut's going to tell you. And the reason I was not comfortable is because I've never been able to speak to the person on the phone. Everything that we did was by email or text message. And so I wasn't able to have that woman's intuition to get a feel for who he was. And so because of that, I said, well, I'm not going alone. And I didn't. I just took my gun.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, those are the stories nobody hears about, right? But
Yeah,
that's what needs to be talked about, because it's the reality, right?
it's true.
So it's part of what we do. So, well, we got about 10 more minutes here before the podcast wrapping up. So Sam, I think we got time probably for one more question here.
Yeah,
or maybe
absolutely.
two.
We got one more question. If there was 5 action steps you can give our audience to take away from our podcast today, what would those 5 action steps be for new listeners, new agents?
What we'll do to streamline this is, because we'll just do one each. So like if you had one takeaway, and then we'll kind of go around here. So starting with Michelle, if there's one takeaway that you'd want somebody to hear, what would it be?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many good things. But okay, I have to choose one. I'm gonna say get a coach and a mentor, because all successful people have one. And if you're not quite there and you think you can try to do it on your own, you just can't. So yeah, get a coach.
I love that.
That was my number one. So that's good.
Cool. How about you, Christy?
I think it's really important to call everybody you know and let them know what you're doing. And I always lead with an intent to serve. Like, I love helping and serving people. And so when I thought about what my number one success thing was that I could do, when I first started my business, I called everybody I knew. And I seriously started on the A's and went to Z's. And I just said, hey, how are you doing? What's going on with your life? And I listened to what they had. And then I looked for an intent to help them. Oh, you know what? I know somebody who can help you with this. Here, let me get you that number. I would just make it all about them. And without fail, every time they would say, how are you doing? What are you doing? And then I was like, oh, thanks for asking. I'm doing real estate and I love it. It's so wonderful. And da 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 da. And then I would just tell them, and then I would just say, so if you wouldn't mind helping me, and my intent wasn't give to get, I truly want to help them. And if they didn't ask me, I wasn't going to ask or say anything, but I think we need to be more bold and have that. So call everybody you know and don't feel insecure. Go with the intent to help and serve them. And they always want to give back.
That's really powerful. Yeah, I think we worry sometimes about what they're going to think when we call them, but if you go in with the right intent, you don't have to worry about that, because the conversation will be more natural. That's really, really strong. Awesome. Angela.
I would say self-help. It's very important to stay and exercise your eating, your mindset. So read, be in the right frame of mind every day, 10 pages of something every morning before you start your day. So you get your mindset right.
That's good. Yeah, because I think that that's part of self-care in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when you're putting positive things in your mind, you're just naturally going to get a better outcome. But I go back to that word burnt out. Most of the time when I see people say that they have burnt out, it's because they're burnt out. And I'm not talking about short-term burnout where they just need a break, but where I'm talking about people are like ready to they're just shot, right? And they're not in a really good, horrible place mentally. It's a lot of it's those little things of what you're talking about, Angela, is those little things that they do each day to maintain their energy, maintain their vitality, maintain that right mindset. So anyone listening, don't take that for granted. Your morning routine and just putting something positive in your life every day, even if it's like for me, like I didn't have a lot of time. I just read 5 pages, just something quick. I just I try to trying to stick to that as much as possible. So that's awesome. How about you, Veda?
So I have so many, but I think I'm going to say joining a mastermind. I think that is something really good. Joining a mastermind, so even something like this, as you can notice, and as we were introduced, we're all from a different part of the country, and we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know, and different things take place in different states prior to getting to our state. So when you're in that mastermind, you're able to hear things or look at something a little bit differently or try something new or try something different. Masterminding with people. And then too, you have a great network to refer in and out with like-minded professionals as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the collective masterminded, you can't take it for granted. This is why like people look at, wow, Isaiah, how'd you learn all these things? Because I get to hang out with awesome people like this all day long, and mastermind, that's how you learn, right? So
Yeah.
So Samantha, just from an outside looking in, I'd love to hear your perspective too, after listening to this conversation, what you think as well as might be a takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty much it kind of was reassuring that I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who doesn't prioritize things on a regular basis, and I don't time block that well, which I need to work on, but that we all are pretty much dealing with the same thing, and we're going through the same stuff, and we're not all alone. And it's, and that inspiration and power of having strong leaders and friends and family in your sphere and support group is huge. Keep you going, keep you sane. And then of course, taking care of myself, that was huge too, because I don't do that. And being a single mom and working full time and having a little girl who's 5, it's exhausting. And I don't have that much family support up here, but I do have an amazing work family that supports me, which is huge. So it was nice, reassuring to know that I'm not alone and doing it all alone.
Awesome. That's great. So if you're watching this podcast, what we would do is we ask that you'd give back by sharing it with somebody that you think needs to hear this podcast, because I guarantee within your sphere, if it's not you, and if you even got one thing that you think somebody else needs to hear, share it with them, spread this, because I think that this is what needs to happen more, and this information needs to get out there, especially for up and coming women in real estate, because women do now and will continue to be a huge part of real estate and the whole economy around real estate, and everything that goes into that. And so please, share it with the world. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's REN podcast. I feel freaking honored to be a part of this podcast with such awesome women. So just thank you so much, ladies, for taking your time to share your experiences with the world. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Stay tuned for next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Honor to meet all of you guys. You're awesome. Thank you.
Nice to meet you all too. Thank you,
Thank you.
Isaiah.